Hello everyone. So today we're going to talk about how to work with copper wire. So in order to work with copper wire, we're going to use a few different tools that you guys are going to need to know about. These are tools we're going to use all semester long, and these are vocabulary words that you're going to want to pay attention to because you're going to need to know. The first tool we're going to use is a steel block. Okay, we'll be using steel blocks a lot. Now the steel blocks in the classroom are a lot larger than this. I'm in my studio right now, so things are going to look slightly different, but it's going to be the same thing. The steel blocks that you guys have in the classroom, that we have in the classroom, are much larger. They're on each of the tables, right in the middle of the tables, okay? Next thing we're going to use is a file. Now we've got two different sizes of files. We've got the large files and the small files. The small files are called needle files. The bigger files are just called files, okay? So we're using half round files, so that refers to the shape of the file. It means one side is flat, one side is round. The type of file you use just depends on the size of the piece that you're doing. Since we are working with wire and it's small, we can use either one. Either one's fine. We'll be using files a lot during this semester. Next tool is, we're going to talk about a few different types of pliers. So the first one is round nose pliers. The round nose pliers are round on the ends, okay? So the nose, this is part of the pliers here. These are the rounded pliers. So you want to pay attention to that because there's some different types of pliers that we have that you'll use for different functions, okay? Round nose pliers generally are used for when you want to curve something into a rounded shape, okay? We also have chain nose pliers and flat nose pliers. Now I'm showing you these at the same time because we can use both of these for the same purpose for this project that we're doing. Okay, they're both flat on the inside. The only difference is that chain nose pliers are tapered on the end, whereas the flat nose are not. Okay, see how it's the same all the way throughout? This one, it's wider at the bottom, gets thinner at the top. But they're both flat on the inside of the pliers here. So this would be used for any time you want to do some kind of a straight bend or like a sharp corner, and you need something flat on the inside. And then the last one we'll use is wire cutters or wire snips. Okay, so these are called both wire cutters or wire snips. You might hear me say one or the other or both, but these cut wire. Okay. Now these are only sharp enough to cut wire. They're not sharp enough to cut sheet metal, which is later on. So we'll talk later about how to cut sheet metal. But for now, we're just working with wire anyway. So what we're going to start with our piece of wire is we're going to file one end of this wire. When we cut it with the wire cutters, it pinches the end of the wire, makes it really sharp, doesn't look so good. So we want to file that to make it nice and smooth and flat. Okay. Anytime we're working with jewelry, we need to think about, first of all, how does it look? Okay, because this is a wearable piece of art, something that you're going to see. We need to think about the aesthetic, which means how it looks, appeal to it. We also need to think about the function of it. So we need to think about, is it sharp? Okay, is it smooth? How does it feel when it's worn? So to file this, we are going to take the file. We're going to hold the wire up against the table. So I'm just going to hold it in my hand. I'm going to hold my hand against the table. Anytime you're filing, you need to have support, okay? Don't hold it in the air. If you're holding it in the air, you're not going to get very much done. So make sure you're holding it up against the table. This will work a whole lot better for you. So I'm going to push forward. So files only work in one direction. So I'm going to push forward with the file. If you pull backward, nothing happens. You just clog the file. So just push forward with the file. Okay, just takes a few times over it. As long as it's a good file, it should work pretty quickly. The next thing we're going to do is, because this wire is curved, we want to straighten this out before we start bending it into our shape. So that's where the mallet is going to come in handy. Okay, so this mallet and the steel block. So I can probably use my fingers a little bit to start with to kind of straighten this out. This wire is pretty pliable, pretty easy to bend, but this mallet is going to make it a whole lot easier to get it nice and straight. So I'm going to hit this on top of the steel block, and I'm going to twist the wire as I'm hitting it, okay? Get it fairly straight. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just want it straight enough that it's easier to work with in the beginning. You don't want to overdo this though, because if you hit it for too long, you can start to get dents in it, not from the mallet, but from the steel block. And you're going to start to work harden this metal, okay? When it becomes work hardened, it becomes harder to bend. So don't hit it too long with the mallet. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do now is we're going to start creating our design. So I've drawn a couple designs. Let's see if we can see those. I wanted to do an example with some curves and an example with some straight edges to show you guys the difference on how we're going to bend this, okay?